What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Touchline Talk. For the second time in 3 years, Gotham FC are your NWSL champions. Not the greatest game in the world. Back and forth. You could tell early on these were two really evenly matched teams for the most part. The fact you're playing on a neutral venue across the country balances that out even more. And that is also part of what makes this interesting, and really what I want to focus on is the fact that I would make the argument this Gotham team deeper, more talented. Obviously, they finished 6 spots and I think it was 8 points behind Washington this season. Had some injuries and all kinds of things. But for the most part in this game, the Spirit had control. The Spirit were dictating the terms and were the better team. First 10-15 minutes, it was Gotham. Came out, really good start. High press was causing issues. And then Washington made the smart decision to start playing more direct, to just go over the top of it. There was space to run into. That is exactly what started happening. All of a sudden, they tilted the field, got the ball into Gotham's half, started causing some issues, and most importantly, took Rose Lavelle and Jaden Shaw out of the game. Jaden Shaw was all over the place, on the ball all the time in those opening 10-15 minutes, and then didn't do very much the rest of the game. So it really did change, and it's not like Washington created all these chances. It was a very tight, cagey game. But they did get to a point where you felt like they were becoming the ascendant force, and specifically for most of that second half, from minute 46 to minute 70, there's no question who the better team was, and that game was trending one direction. You also had the Lily Real yellow card, almost the second yellow card, which Washington was able to attack and then force the substitution to bring on Bruninha. It just all felt like it was building in a positive direction for Washington. And then you get the Hal Hirschfeld injury that seems to have played at least some role in the goal that decides this game from Rose Lavelle. At the same time, as much as I do think Washington was the better team for most of this game, there were 0 shots on target. Gotham had the second best defense in the league behind Kansas City. They were really good defensively throughout the postseason. A couple clean sheets. Like I said, not a lot of dangerous opportunities, no shots on target in this game. And when you have that kind of defensive foundation and all of these players who can go be match winners and difference makers for you, that is a really good formula for success, and specifically success on the road in a postseason. Because nobody should have been treated, and it became pretty clear pretty quickly, and I felt this way from the minute that they got the 8 seed. Nobody should be treating this team as underdogs. And at least that was not the narrative coming into this game. Everybody knows. I mean, you look at the, and it's a little bit different because Mandy Freeman started this game instead of Bruninha. But you look at the squad that's there. I mean, Gabby Portillo was on the bench. You're talking about 9, 10, maybe that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but established internationals with very good teams that they are playing for internationally, right? We're talking about Brazil, we're talking about the US, we're talking about England, Germany, those kind of teams. That is what this squad is made up of. And, oh, by the way, the other person not in that conversation is the NWSL Rookie of the Year. And so that's what's fascinating to me is they are not playing to their potential. But they keep themselves in games. It's a great way to stay in games on the road, to keep a crowd out of it when you can just smother teams, play really good defense, and then you have your Jaden Shaws, your Rose Lavelles, your Astairs, your Midge Purses, all of these different players who can go be the best player on the field, who can go make that defining moment in a game. That was really the one big opportunity, and it wasn't even that great of an opportunity that Rose Lavelle had. But if player Rose Lavelle's quality, that ball falls that way, you like your chances, and she tucked it away perfectly. Very good execution. Good goal. somebody was going to have to make a play, it felt like, from the very beginning to decide this game. And the question was whether it was going to be Lavelle, whether it was going to be Croy Bethune. You can go down the list. Washington's wingers, whether that was going to be Astaire. Somebody was going to have to do something and deliver in the moment. And ultimately, though I still, again, think Washington played better, the team that got the moment was Gotham. Maybe this plays out differently if Hirschfeld doesn't get hurt. Maybe this plays out differently if Washington makes that sub sooner and doesn't try and get it back on the field. Because Gotham built up some confidence and some momentum playing 11v10, and then you've got some kind of indecision, and you can't leave Rose Lavelle open like that. You just can't. She's too good of a player. And so now Rose Lavelle finally gets her NWSL Championship, basically the only thing missing from her resume. She's now scored in 2 of the last 3, one for Gotham, one against Gotham. And it was not quite the performance that she had 2 years ago, because she was fantastic for Seattle in that game. But you've got to give her credit. Not only is she obviously a world-class player, but in these big moments, World Cup finals, NWSL Championships, she has put in some really good performance, and she has delivered on the score sheet. That's why you pay her all of the money, and she gets all of the attention, and she hasn't always been available consistently. Most of the time, she has not been available consistently for her NWSL clubs. But in the biggest moments, when she's been healthy, she has delivered on multiple occasions, and this game was no different. And so this is where I'm fascinated kind of moving forward in just the overall narrative here. 2 years ago, that was much more of an underdog team. This group of players, the Emily Sonnets, the Tierna Davidsons, the Rose Lavelles, and then this kind of the second group of the Jess Carters and everybody else who's come in, the Jaden Shaws, came in to build a dynasty, to build off of that unexpected, more Cinderella-esque run that they had in 2023, coming off of a terrible 2022. And they've been fine. The goal difference and kind of the numbers indicate that they really weren't the 8th best team this season. I believe they had the 2nd best goal difference in the league, if I'm not mistaken. But even in this run to the championship, their XG, expected goals, in those first 2 games was less than half of what they conceded. It's not like they played great in any of these games. They found ways to win them, and ultimately that's what matters. And this team is, I talk about this all the time, but this is another example of a team that is specifically equipped to do it in this kind of format. Because like I said, they have the defensive foundation, they have the difference makers. It doesn't matter if it doesn't click or if everybody's not healthy throughout the entire season. You don't want to see this team with your season on the line. And this is why. Because you know that they are capable of doing this, even when they're not playing at their best. And so the question then becomes, can they actually put this all together? Because it doesn't feel like they're any closer to actually building a juggernaut. But when the postseason comes around, they show up every season. And now they have a second championship, and this group of players has their first together in kind of this new super team era that they have built. It just has not felt like a super team at any point because they haven't been, and they aren't. But they found ways to win the 3 games that matters, and that's the other thing about the NWSL postseason format, even as you've expanded it from 2 games to 3, right? We're not playing best of 3 series like we are in MLS. It's not like you have to start in a round of 16 or a round of 64 and play 6 games like you do in the NCAA tournament. It's still pretty condensed. You just got to find a way to do it once, and then you got to find a way to do it again, and then you're in the championship, and anything can happen. And so I wrote about this in 5 Things from the Week from the minute that they knocked off the Kansas City Current. I felt like they were the most dangerous team left in this tournament because you just know what they're capable of, And you know how high their ceiling is, and they still haven't reached it, which is a scary thought for the rest of the league, because if they ever put this together with this kind of postseason formula and this kind of DNA that they have built, they could turn into the North Carolina Courage, where it just feels inevitable. It's one of the most dominant stretches we've seen in U.S. sports in a long, long time. I know it didn't last forever, but the feeling of inevitability was incredibly strong for those Courage teams. But they are so far from that happening because they just haven't put anything together consistently. It's what I'm really, really curious about, kind of how this goes and what happens next, and whether they can go win 3 out of 5, something like that. And this group of players can really turn this into something where they are the class of the league. Because we don't have anybody who's the class of the league right now. It was Orlando, who had that phenomenal season and won the championship. And then it was Kansas City, who didn't win a playoff game. And is also making a coaching change. And now, you feel like Gotham are as talented as anybody. But they haven't been in contention for shields. They have a Columbus Crew-esque element to them, where you feel great about that team in the postseason. You come away from stuff feeling like, and I feel stronger this way about the Crew, because the Crew have definitively been the best team in MLS, even though they didn't show it in the regular season. You could walk out of those postseasons, at least one of them going, I'm specifically thinking about the one in which Darlington Nagbe was hurt, going, if you just give that team full strength, whole season, healthy, they're the best team in the league. I'm still not convinced that's the case with Gotham, but that's more what this feels like, is you know what they can do on any given day. You know that they are a really tough out. You know how talented they are. It just doesn't come together consistently over the season. And the way that we build sports in this country, that's pretty much okay. I always am somebody who values the regular season and values consistency, so I always point this out. Because it's just a different conversation. Not necessarily better or worse. But winning 3 games does not make you the best team in the league. The Current were the best team in the league this season. That is undisputed. And there are specific sets of skills that allow you to do this, and Gotham FC have them. So we're going to have to see where it goes from here, whether they can build on this, what they do in the offseason, whether there's another star or two that comes in, what the next evolution of this is. But second time in 3 years, your 2025 NWSL champions, Gotham FC. Congratulations specifically to Rose Lavelle, finally getting that NWSL title and scoring the goal that made it happen. Thanks for tuning in. As always, be sure to hit that subscribe button. I'll see you next time.